Hello, I am here with my January favorites. I haven't done a favorites video in a few months. I think September was the last monthly favorites video that I did. A lot of stuff happened at the end of the year last year and I couldn't do it. So anyway, we're gonna talk about my favorite things from January. I have a lot of things to talk about. I'm really excited about it. We're just gonna use the same format that I've been using the last year, which is we're gonna start with books. So I have 3 books to talk about. And the first one is A Prayer for the Crown Shy by Becky Chambers. This is a sequel. Actually, these are all sequels, so I can't talk much about them. But this is a sequel to A Psalm for the Wild Built, which I did talk about in my favorite reads of 2023 video. I'll link that below. Maybe I'll just link it at the end as well, so you can check it out if you haven't seen it already and want to know more about it. But basically, it's about a monk and a robot who go on an adventure together, and there's like no conflict. It's just they talk about their feelings and discover things about themselves and each other, and it's beautiful. And this is just a continuation of that, and I loved it so much. Like, I literally cried tears of joy from this book. Like, I loved it so much, and I thought it was so sweet that it just made me cry. The next book here is Miss Lane in Parts Half Known by Seanan McGuire, which is book 9, I think, in the Wayward Children series. I also talked about book 8 in this series in my favorite reads of 2023 video, so you can check that out. But this is about children and teenagers who have gone through doorways into magical lands and spent some time there and have now come back to our world and are having trouble dealing with being in our world. So there's a boarding school for these kids. So every odd-numbered book is about the kids at the boarding school, and every even-numbered book is about one kid and what happened to them when they went to their world. So I would say for like the odd numbered books, you still do have to read the even numbered books in order to fully understand and appreciate the story, because they do talk about stuff from the standalones in the odd numbered books, but the even numbered books, the standalones, do work on their own. You don't have to know anything about any of the other books, which is really cool. So anyway, this is an odd numbered book, so this is part of like the series. You need to read the other books to know what's going on. And this one is mainly about the character that we read about in the previous even-numbered book. So it's pretty cool. And then we've got Saga Volume 11, which is my favorite comic series. I love the artwork. I love most of the characters. I really like most of the storylines. And I love like the little narrative pieces that's being told by Hazel, the daughter of the 2 like main characters, I guess. Anyway, I love this. I most specifically love the storyline with Hazel and Squire in this. I'm not going to tell you anything else about the story because this is volume 11, so that will give lots of spoilers, but loved this. The next thing we're going to talk about is a board game that is Everdell. So I saw this at the mall before Christmas when I was Christmas shopping, and I took a picture of it so that I could look it up online and see if it seemed like a game that I would enjoy, which I did do, and I thought it looked fun, so I bought it. And I took it to our game night, and we all decided to play it. And it took us like 2 hours to understand how the game worked. I don't think the instructions are as clear and as easy to follow as they could be, because we had to take all of our knowledge of what each of us understood from different parts of the instructions in order to understand it enough to try to think about playing it. We also had to look up videos on YouTube and threads about it on Reddit. It was very difficult to understand. There is a lot to like getting started in the game and understanding what you have to do. But once we figured that we understood it enough collectively, like between all of us, enough was understood to start playing, it was actually really simple. It's really straightforward. There's just a lot of pieces to it and kind of a lot of things to remember. Anyway, we all ended up loving it. Everdell is adorable, okay? Beautiful artwork, amazing board with this like 3D tree that doesn't even need to be there, but is, because it's cool. Everybody plays as a group of different forest critters, and the goal of the game is to place your forest creatures around in different places in Everdell to collect resources and use those resources to build a town. That's basically the goal of the game, is to build your own town and get the most points out of what kind of town pieces you have. Like, there's certain characters and buildings and stuff that are worth more points, and then depending on what you have in your town, you can also add like fun events to your town and stuff as well that gets you more points. And there are 4 seasons in the game, so each season you're only allowed to use a certain amount of workers to get your things for your town, and then when a new season starts you get to add more workers, and it was so cute. I lost super hard because I did not even care about winning. I just wanted to build a town. I was just so excited for the things that I wanted in my town, and I was having so much fun just collecting things for my town. It was great. I forget what I had a school, I think, and an inn. I did not win from it, but I had fun. You can only play with 4 players, which was one of the things that made me a little hesitant to buy it. And I was like, well, are there expansion packs to add more players? Which there are, but you need a lot of space to have. Even just to play it with 4 players, you need a lot of space. Like, you need a big table to play it. Or, like, you need to be comfortable enough to do it on the floor, I guess. But a lot of people on Reddit, this is what made me buy it, a lot of people on Reddit said that when they have more than 4 players, they play in teams, or pairs or whatever, which would be fun. I feel like less fun, but it could still be fun, for sure. And I'm so excited to play it again. I loved it so much. The next one that I'm going to talk about is a movie, and that is Robin Hood. I can't remember what year it's from. It's new-ish. It's not that new, but it's like new-ish. I forget who directed it. I took note of it so I could say it in my video, but it's on my phone, and I'm recording with my phone. But it was directed by this person, and it's the one with Taron Egerton, who plays Robin Hood. And I love Taron Egerton, and it's funny because I always forget about him until he's in something, and I'm like, oh yeah, I love him. I love him in everything that I've seen him in. I was never a huge fan of Robin Hood growing up. Like, there weren't really any Robin Hood movies besides, like, the Disney one that I didn't even really like that much that I saw, so I don't really have anything to compare it to. I have seen the Kevin Costner one, but I was younger and I don't really remember it. So I don't have anything to compare it to, if you're looking for that. But I thought it was a lot of fun. It had fun action, great strong characters, and also a lot of it was, like, modern. Like, their costumes and the way they spoke and stuff was kind of modern, which made it interesting and fun. I really enjoyed it. My mom and I watched it together and we thought it was a lot of fun. The next is a TV show that I actually was not interested in before, until my friend at work told me to watch it, and that's Ahsoka. I have watched all the other... No, that's a lie. I was going to say I've watched all the other live-action Star Wars shows, but I have not. I've watched The Mandalorian, Book of Boba Fett, and Obi-Wan, and I loved all of those. But I wasn't really interested in Ahsoka. I feel like if I had seen Clone Wars, I would be really interested in Ahsoka. But I've not seen Clone Wars, and I don't know if I ever will, really. But I really enjoyed it. It is different. I feel like it definitely has a slower moving story. And it's more, there's a lot of, like, piecing things together because you just, like, hear about snippets of people's backstories and it kind of gets, like, built together as the story goes. But I felt like all the characters were so strong. I did really like the pacing. I wasn't expecting the pacing, but I really enjoyed it. They were still really cool, like, lightsaber battles. There's characters from other shows in it, like Carson Teva is in it, which is fantastic. There's so much crossover. It's so much fun. I do love that about the Star Wars universe, about how there's so many different forms of media, like, because there's video games and there's books and everything too, which I haven't played or read. Actually, I did. I read Star Wars books when I was younger. I read, like, Young Jedi Knight books or something. But anyway, we're getting off topic. I love how the Star Wars universe is so big now, and there's so many choices of what to watch or consume, and you don't have to watch all of it, and you can watch all of it, and there's so many different ways to immerse yourself into this magical, amazing world, and I love that for us. I love that for Star Wars fans. It's great. There's so many different ways that you can experience this world or universe, and I just love that they just keep pumping out Star Wars content. It's great. I love most of it, so hooray. Ahsoka is definitely one, like I have said before with The Mandalorian, that you don't really need to know anything about Star Wars to watch The Mandalorian, because The Mandalorian doesn't know anything about Star Wars. Ahsoka, definitely you need to know a lot about Star Wars. I feel like there's a lot of, like, snippets or just pieces of information that won't mean anything to you or might be confusing if you don't know, like, the main Star Wars stories. or even like stuff from some of the shows, because some of the shows touch on stuff from the movies more so. Like, we learn way more about the Mandalorians in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett than we do in any of the movies. Ahsoka is definitely a show for someone who knows a lot about Star Wars, whereas The Mandalorian, you don't really need to know much about Star Wars. I feel like The Mandalorian's like kind of a good starting place for Star Wars, or like the original trilogy is probably the best starting place. The last thing that I'm going to talk about is a video game, which is Ocarina of Time, Zelda Ocarina of Time for the Nintendo 64, which I have played but never finished, and still haven't finished it. I haven't actually played that much of it, but have thoroughly enjoyed it. So my brother and I got Zelda like when it first came out. Like, the Nintendo 64 was the first gaming system that we ever owned, because we bought it with our own money that we saved from delivering papers. And I was not good at most video games. Like, when I played Mario, like, I played like I would go down the slide with the penguin and stuff. And then like I liked racing games. Like, I liked Diddy Kong Racing and Mario Kart and Wave Race and those kinds of games, but any games that involved any kind of like video game dexterity or problem solving, puzzle solving, or fighting, I couldn't do any of that. And I loved the idea of Zelda, and I wanted to be good at it. I loved the music, and I loved the graphics. And I loved the story, and I liked watching my brother play, and I had my own, because you could have like 3 accounts going at once, like 3 games going. And I had my own, but I couldn't get out of Kokiri Forest. My brother had to be the Deku Tree for me, because I couldn't do it. I was like 11, right? And I would just go fishing. Like, I would go visit Epona in Lilmon Ranch, and I would go fishing. And then sometimes I would ask if I could play on my brother's profile so that I could ride Epona and go back in time and stuff, because he'd beaten it and everything. And that was my extent of Ocarina of Time. And then in 2020 or 2021, I can't remember. Anyway, it was during the pandemic. I brought out my N64, ended up hooking it up and getting it to work, and started playing Ocarina of Time. Fucking loved it. Fell in love. And I didn't get very far because I was new still to these kinds of games. I hadn't done a lot of gaming yet still. But I managed to make it to an adult, which took me forever. It took me a really long time. Like multiple days of playing for 4 hours at a time. But I loved it. So I got the 3 spiritual stones, made it to an adult, and then my Nintendo 64 randomly stopped working for some reason. So I bought a Switch, and I got Breath of the Wild. Fell in love with Breath of the Wild. When I was done playing Breath of the Wild, there was pretty much nothing left for me to do, and Tears of the Kingdom still had not come out yet. I decided to start Zelda again from the beginning. Got through the first 2 spiritual stones like that. Like, it was so easy, and I was like, I'm kind of embarrassed how long it took me to do this the first time. But I'm better at these. I've played more of these types of games since then, so I know a lot, right? I know a lot more. And so I beat the Deku Tree and Dondago's Cavern. I beat those 2. And then Tears of the Kingdom came out, so I stopped playing it. My brother and I picked up Ocarina of Time in January, and just picked up from where I left off the last time I played, so still needing to get the Spiritual Stone of Water, and continuing from there. And we just took turns playing, so when he was playing, I was watching, giving ideas on what to do, Googling things if we needed to Google, and vice versa. When I was playing, he was doing the other things. In one night, we beat the Spiritual Stone of Water in Jabu Jabu's belly, made it to being an adult and going to the Forest Temple, and made it to just before the boss in the Forest Temple. And then we beat the Forest Temple, and what are we doing now? We're currently in the Fire Temple. So we haven't done too much, but we've also gotten Epona, and it's just been so much fun, and it's so nostalgic and funny, because I remember thinking these graphics were amazing, and they're terrible. There was even like one point, because my mom has seen me playing Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, so she came and saw us playing this, and she was like, what are you playing? And we said, we're playing Zelda. And she was like, that's not Zelda. I've seen Nat play Zelda. And we're like, yeah, this is from Nintendo 64. This is from like 1998. And she was like, oh, well, this looks like shit. Why aren't you playing the good one? And we're like, because it's fun. It's nostalgic. And she was like, okay. But anyway, my brother and I have been having a lot of fun playing that together. I think those are all of my favorites. I also have decided to start posting my skits from TikTok in like compilations, like 5 parts at a time maybe. And I thought I'd start with my first one that I did, which was the Mars story, because that one is going to be a book soon. And if anyone doesn't have TikTok or just hasn't seen my skits on TikTok and wants to see it, I do have parts 1 to 5 of the Mars story up in one video, and I will have parts 6 to 10 shortly. If people don't watch them, I probably won't post any more beyond my Mars story, I guess, but they're gonna be here for people to watch if they want to, and I just thought it would be fun to start with the Mars story, since it was my first fiction series that I posted on TikTok, and because I have a book based on it coming out soon, which watching the skit series will not spoil the book. There's way more in the book than the skit series could ever have, and the ending's not like exactly the same, so there's gonna be like no spoilers. You don't have to worry about that. But I feel like it would be it's super fun, you know, to watch the skit series and then read the book that I based off of. Like, the book is based off of my skit series, which I think is so cool. So yeah, there's that, which is fun. And I can't sit anymore because pain. So have a good day.